Hello, everyone. This is Sir Cloyd, and this is Lecture to My Students podcast. This podcast aims to aid the growing needs of students who hungers to learn more about the subject they've enrolled and inevitably pass the subject, as well as those who has difficulties with internet connection, lack of devices, areas that are not that conducive for learning, and conflict of interest. I hope you find every episode beneficial, not just academically, but in your own personal lives as well. To my students, thank you for wanting to know more today than you did yesterday, and I hope you learn a lot from this episode.
Alright, para sa ating random quote for this episode, this is from The Abolition of Men by C.S. Lewis. The task of the modern educator is not to cut down jungles but to irrigate deserts. The right defense against false sentiments is to inculcate just sentiments. By starving the sensibility of our pupils, we only make them easier prey to the propagandist when he comes. For famished nature will be avenged, and a hard heart is not infallible protection against a soft head. Hello, kumusta kayo? Sana nasa maayos kayong kalagayan. Opo, Sir Cloyd, mabuti naman. Wow, kanyang tanong, kanya ding sasagot. Anyway, tayo ay nasa ikapitong episode na ng ating pag-aaral sa ethics. Kaya ang pag-aaralan natin ngayon ay si Immanuel Kant at ang kanyang principle-based ethics, or some of them call this Kantian ethics. So, ang ating intended learning objectives dito sa ating episode ngayon ay understand what principle-based ethics is and differentiate hypothetical imperatives to categorical imperatives. And syempre, determine natin dito sa Kantian ethics yung strength and its weaknesses. Palagi naman natin yung ginagawa para balance tayo. Okay? Sana kayo ay excited na at ako ay excited rin. So, simulan na natin yan. Okay, Kantian ethics falls under deontological ethics. This is in contrast with the utilitarianism, which is a consequentialist or focuses on the consequences of the action in order to determine what is good. Dito naman sa ethics na ito, this is deontological means duty focus naman ito. This branch of ethics places duty higher than anything else. It states that we have to follow moral set of rules no matter the situation is or the outcome will be. I believe nabanggit ko doon sa previous episode natin na it seems si Batman ay Kantian ethics kasi ayaw niyang i-cross yung line which is yung rule mabali na hindi siya kailanman papatay o hindi niya kailanman papatayin si Joker. Killing is one of the unbreakable rules para kay Batman. So for Kant, the only good is the goodwill. Kant didn't believe that good is linked to happiness, in contrast with utilitarianism. He argued that what might make some people happy could be an evil act. Also, good is not dependent on the outcome because the particular outcome might have been brought about by evil acts. May explore natin ito sa ating episode ngayon that yung bagay na magpapasaya dun sa ibang tao ay kalungkutan naman ang dala sa ilan. Yung magma-maximize ng pleasure sa kanila could also maximize yung pain ng object nung kanilang sinusukat na happiness. So, titingnan natin yan dito sa episode natin. We've also mentioned that goodwill, it is the only good. What is goodwill ba? Brief overview ng ating pag-aaralan ngayon. So, what is goodwill? It is for rational beings, such as you and me. Goodwill is to follow their duty and act in accordance with moral law. Immanuel Kant devised a principle-based ethic. So remember yung ating episode 3. This principle-based ethic is not based on a religious system or ito ay in reverence with the supreme or transcendent being. So ito ay entirely dependent or anchored sa paggamit lamang ng ating reason or ng capability to rationalize. So to determine what is right, you have to use reason and a sense of consideration to other people. That is our way of coming to what is considered to be a moral action. In Kant's view, religion and morality are a terrible pairing, and it should be kept apart from one another. Kant argues that if we based our morality with religion, we will not get the same answer. Morality for Kant is constant and applicable to everyone, regardless of your religious beliefs or lack thereof. Ganun niya tinitingnan itong idea ng morality na it seems constant in a mathematical sense na kung paanong ay ang 2 plus 2 equals 4 ay pareho whether you are a Christian, a Buddhist, or atheist, or anumang sekta kakabilang. Yun ay, it seems, universal. Yun yung key term natin dito, universal. Tingnan pa natin yan mamaya. Itong principle-based ethic ni Kant ay may mga underlying assumptions ito. Una, to have a moral system, one must have power to constrain people without being deterministic. Ano ibig sabihin yan? Deterministic, we are able to lead a person and predict that an action will be committed at ito ay inevitable. So ganun pag sinabi nating deterministic, we are certain na itong specific action na to, itong specific behavior na ito ay lalabas dun sa tao because we have made interventions, because we have manipulated the environment, the person, the things that is surrounding that person that is being deterministic. Pero sabi niya, hindi dapat maging ganun yung isang moral system. At ganito ang moral system ni Kant. This is able to constrain people. This is able to give you a chance to obey or disobey. Kasi nga, tinatanggal natin yung idea ng deterministic. So that is number 1, assumption. Number 2, a valid duty in circumstance X is the same for all rational beings. Yun daw. Universally, ito ay pare-pareho sa lahat. Itong duty na ito, duty to follow our reason in accordance with the moral law ay pare-pareho sa lahat ng circumstance at ito ay binding sa lahat ng rational beings. Yun yung underlying assumption ng principle-based ethic. So, ibabalikan natin yan mamaya. Third, people cannot change their moral obligations or duties merely by changing their desires. Importante din ito dahil ito kasing pag-aaral natin ng principle-based ethics. Yes, ina-acknowledge ni Immanuel Kant na itong desires natin ay nagpi-play talaga ng role sa kung sino tayo. This is part of our human nature that we have desires, we have emotions, we do things out of our want or out of our or contingent ito, dependent ito sa kung ito ba ay gusto nating gawin, ito ba ay beneficial sa atin. But yung moral obligation, yung moral duty ay hindi pwedeng baguhin dahil lang hindi feel ng tao na ito na gawin itong specific duty na ito, o i-fulfill itong specific duty na ito. Okay, ito yung isa sa mga underlying assumption ng principle-based ethic. Tuloy tayo. Ilan sa mga terms na ma-encounter natin dito ay yung maxim or yung principle. Maxim is the plan of action where an individual in circumstance X does act to bring about a result. So moral maxims or plan of action must be categorical. That is, they must be binding and independent of one's desire. Again, highlighting yung moral assumption nitong principle-based ethic. So Kant feels that a man is acting morally only when he suppresses his feelings and inclinations and does that which he is obliged to do. The good man is a man of goodwill, a kind of man who acts from a sense of duty. All human relations should be based on trust. Trust of what? A trust that all human beings, universally speaking, They will follow their rationality and a sense of consideration to other people, that they will follow the certain rules. They will not bend or break it. So, ito yung sinasabi na human relations is based on trust. And also, sinasabi din dito na um, what is a moral man is a man who can suppress his feelings and inclinations. Meaning, kaya niyang i-disregard yung kanyang nararamdaman, yung kanyang kagustuhan in order to fulfill yung kanyang duty. Okay? Mas makikita natin yan as we go along dito sa ating pag-aaral. Again, ito yung maxim, ito yung principle. Okay, kanina pa natin pinag-uusapan yung maxim or principle, ano yung goodwill. Ngayon, ang question, paano ba natin maa-attain ito? Paano ba natin makikita, matatagpuan, matatamo itong goodwill, itong moral action na ito? Kasi kung pagbabasihan nyo lang yung mga sinabi ko kanina, Sir Cloyd, parang ang vague naman ng dinidiscuss natin. Parang mas vague pa yan sa Aristotelian virtue ethics. Pero by nature naman kasi, yung Aristotelian virtue ethics ay vague talaga. Okay, bigyan natin ng linaw. Si Immanuel Kant ay may dinevise na imperatives o mga should or mga ought na dapat i-follow nung individual in order to attain something. Ito yung hypothetical imperatives at categorical imperatives. Daanan natin, ano pag sinabing hypothetical imperatives? These are commands you must follow if you want something. Again, hypothetical imperatives are commands you must follow if you want something. Anong halimbawa nito? If you want to be on time, then you ought to leave early. If you want to get good grades, then you ought to study. So yung if-then statements na ito ay ina-associate natin sa hypothetical imperatives. Actions that flows from hypothetical imperatives are non-moral actions. Hindi naman nadidetermine yung morality ng isang individual kung siya ay maaga dun sa usapan, kung siya ay mataas sa lahat ng kanyang subject. So yung resulta ng hypothetical imperatives, these are non-moral actions. And this is contingent with our desires, meaning we have an option not to study if we don't want to. Okay? Contingent ito, whether ito ba ay gusto natin, ito ba ay beneficial para sa atin. It is dependent on us, on our desires. Though, as an educator, syempre, hindi yun ang gusto ko para sa inyo. But again, it is optional. Next is categorical imperatives. Categorical imperatives are commands you must follow regardless of your desires. Moral obligations are derived from pure reason. This is from Hank Green ng Crash Course Philosophy. Itong categorical imperatives na ito, this is part of our nature, of our human nature. This is intrinsic in everyone, in each of us. And it drives us to follow it. Itong categorical imperatives. This is independent of any ulterior purpose, ulterior motive, or even consequences. Whether napipicture natin yung maganda ba ang kalalabasan nito, beneficial ba ito sa atin o sa marami, hindi ito yung nagda-drive bakit tayo nagfa-follow sa mga rules na ito. It's just our reason, it's just our rationality that is pulling us to obey, to see ourselves doing this categorical imperatives, doing these commands. Okay? Sana malinaw yon. Sunod, it doesn't matter whether you want to be moral or not. Again, the moral law is binding in all of us. The ability to know what's right or wrong is totally knowable just by using our intellect. Again, emphasizing yung pure reason and syempre a little bit of consideration with other people. In addition, this categorical imperative is our guide to moral action. Kant considered this as the voice of duty, a sense of oughtness. a sense of should haves, mga ganon. Okay, na-define natin ano yung categorical imperatives ni Immanuel Kant. Pero ano ba talaga yun exactly? Paano mas magkakaroon ng malinaw na concept ito sa atin? Ito kasing categorical imperatives ay nag-devise si Kant ng 4 na formulations or formula para matulungan tayo may apply natin itong categorical imperatives sa bawat buhay natin. So, i-discuss ko yung dalawa kasi ito yung dalawang pinakasikat at kayo na bahala dun sa dalawa. Okay, simulan natin. Kant's categorical imperatives. First one, act only according to that maxim or principle by which you can at the same time will that it should be a universal law. This is also called the universalizability principle. Okay, hindi tayo mabubulol doon Universalizability principle. Okay, in this principle, it simply asks, before a person act on something, they should ask themselves, what is the general principle of their actions? More on reflective. Itong tinuturo sa atin ng unang categorical imperative o itong universalizability principle. Anong halimbawa nito? Halimbawa, stealing. If a person commits this action, we can say they have approved of it. In a sense, whether they have admitted it or not. Because committing that action is you are sending a message that you are universalizing that action. You are simply saying that it is okay and everyone should always steal. Since you've done it, everyone should be able to commit to that action as well. And it shouldn't be a problem. Okay, ganito yung sinasabi ng universalizability principle. Pag-isipan natin, kung ito ay gagawin natin, ang sinasend natin na message dito ay, okay lang na gawin to ng iba kasi ginawa ko nga. I have used my intellect, I've used my rationality, and still, it leads me to commit this action. For example, itong stealing. So, wala ko dapat magiging problema kung ito ay gagawin ng iba since I acknowledge other people as, like me, rational. Okay? Wala dapat maging problema unless you want to live in a world where you don't always have to look out for your things, be protective of them, since stealing can happen anytime, anywhere, because this action is neither morally right or wrong. This is morally permissible or not. Kasi nga, wala namang problema Dapat, di ba? Sa stealing, kung ikaw mismo ay nag-commit nito. And if you felt that way, that is a contradiction. In Kantian ethics, moral actions cannot bring about contradictions. Sabi dun, di ba? Act only according to that maxim by which you can at the same time will that it should be a universal law. May kaduktong yan, without contradiction. Yung ilang version yan ay may kaduktong na without contradiction. But again, sa wording si Kant, hindi pwedeng magkaroon ng contradiction sa pag-iisip mo na i-commit itong action na to and then at the same time, ayaw mo na i-commit ito ng iba. Okay, if you don't want stealing to be universalized or normalized, then the logical and moral action to do is to forbid stealing. Well, basically, ang sinasabi lang naman ni Kant dito ay mali o hindi patas na bigyan mo ng exception ng iyong sarili. Special as you are no more special than everybody else. The laws governing human conduct are absolutely universal, necessary, and binds all men at all times and places. Okay, ito yung universalizability principle. Una sa 4 na categorical imperatives ni Kant. Proceed tayo. Ikalawa naman ay the formula of humanity. Ito yung maiksing matatandaan natin. But ito yung mahabang version niya. Act so that you treat humanity, whether in your own person or in that of another, always as an end and never as mere means only. Okay, alamin natin ano ang ibig sabihin ng mere means. Ang mere means, ito ay paggamit natin sa isang bagay o tao para sa pansarili nating interes o kapakanan, which led us inevitably to disregard their interest or benefit of the thing we are using or that person we are using. Familiar tayo dito kasi we are using things as mere means. Oh, we are using things as mere means. For example, we used our plates to serve as a container of our food, bottles, mugs, as holders for our drinks, notebook, ballpen, etc. You get my point. At kung hindi na natin mapapakinabangan ng mga bagay na ito, for example, magka-crack yung mug na to, butas na yung plato natin, so ano pang magiging use nito sa atin, we will definitely stop using them kung wala na silang benefit sa atin. And that is fine. Again, that is fine in things. We can use things as mere means. And we can dispose of them if they don't have any use at all. Using things as mere means doesn't necessarily implying that we are immoral or in violation of some sort of moral code. But using people as mere means is definitely an atrocious act. Why is that? Ano ba sabi kasi ni Kant? Ang tingin kasi ni Immanuel Kant sa bawat tao ay ends in themselves. Every person is worthy. Why? Because man is bestowed with rationality, and Kant believed it to be the superior intelligence who governs and directs himself and his actions to achieve his objectives. Yun ang ibig sabihin ni Kant when he is speaking about rationality. So, hindi lang bestowed with rationality ang individual. Humans are also bestowed with free will. Free will which enables him to take on matters to promote his self-interest. Free will, autonomous or self-governed ang individual. With these two, rationality and the free will, man became the master of his actions and architect of his own life and destiny. So treating one another as an ends in themselves is respecting their rationality and their autonomy. We should never use them to achieve our purpose, manipulate them, whether it will bring betterment to that person, to anyone or everyone, or whether our purpose is noble. Again, we don't treat other people as mere means. That is really disrespectful. Okay? Hindi dapat natin sila i-manipulate or gamitin sa pansarili nating interest without thinking of their own interest as well. If this will be beneficial to them, wag tayong makasarili. Yun lang naman yung sinasabi ni Immanuel Kant dito. So now you might ask, Sir Cloyd, aren't we using other people as means from time to time? So how Kant account for that? Good question. Yes, we are using other people as means, but not as mere means. Okay? For example, you are using me to get ideas and learn about Kantian ethics. I am using Hank Green, Ray Scott, Francisco Zulueta, etc. You can check the references to gain that information. So sa ganitong setup, it is fine. You aren't violating my humanity or my autonomy or my rationality. This is still inclined with my duty as an educator. And I am doing this voluntarily, freely, and knowingly. Remember human acts. Ganon din sa mga resources na ginagamit ko. Actually, I am giving them credit by citing them. And that is one way of respecting their persons. Okay? Ginamit ko itong mga individuals na ito at yung kanilang mga isinulat na libro as a means to get information about Kantian ethics. Kung paano ganon din naman kayo sa akin. Okay? Ito yung principle or ito yung formula of humanity sa second categorical imperatives ni Kant. So, yung ikatlo, tsaka yung ikaapat, pwede nyo naman i-search, but others, tatlo lang yung nakalagay sa kanila. Ayan. A third, act as though the maxim of your action were by your will to become a universal law of nature. Then the fourth one, do action to any maxim which would be inconsistent with its being a universal, and thus act only so that the will, through its maxims, could regard itself at the same time as universally law-giving. Okay, ito yung apat na categorical imperatives ni Immanuel Kant. Yung dalawa doon ay na-discuss ko kasi yun yung pinakasikat at pinaka mapapakinabangan din natin. So, I'm not saying na hindi mapapakinabangan yung naiwang yung dalawa. But, yung kasi yung pinakasikat. And most of the resources nakafocus dun sa dalawang nauna kong nabanggit. So, gumaya lang ako sa kanila. Pardon me. Okay, tuloy tayo sa ating pag-aaral. Ngayong nalaman natin ang idea ng principle-based ethic ni Kant or itong Kantian ethics, tingnan natin paano naman ito mag-a-apply, ano naman yung strength as well as yung weaknesses nito. Ito yung part na gustong-gusto natin gawin. At least para sa akin. Strength. A moral theory, this is a moral theory that is easy to apply, reminiscing of utilitarianism. But, natapos na tayo doon. Oo nga naman, itong Kantian ethics, this only requires us to use our reason or rationality and to imagine or to use our imagination as a way of considering other people, itong mga individual na nakakasama natin. Again, in order to come up with the goodwill, in order to come up with the right or moral action, we have to use our rationality and we have to have a consideration with other people. O di ba ang dali-dali lang? Imagine, gagamitin mo yung intellect mo and then you will imagine itong mga tao na nakasama mo sa paligid. So before you commit an action, you pause and reflect for a moment. Ask yourself if you're going to do an action. Because if you do that, you're also saying implicitly that it is okay to be committed by all people as often as they can. Yung tipong pinag-iisipan mong hindi ibalik yung ballpen na hinira mo sa iyong classmate. Then you realize that if the same act will be committed against you, you will definitely get upset about it. So as a result, you will not commit that action. O di ba? Ang dali lang talaga. Ang dali nga lang talaga. Okay, yun yung unang strength nito. Second would be emphasis on the respect of persons or individuals. Kitang-kita naman natin yan kung paanong nagkaroon siya ng ikalawang categorical imperatives in the name of formula of humanity. Ayan, nakita natin to dito sa categorical imperatives ni Kant. Ito yung pag-refrain natin sa paggamit sa isang tao as mere means. At ito daw, in Kant's view, ito daw yung ultimate law of morality. Dagdag pa niya, since their value, a person's value, is beyond all price, then it logically follows that we treat each of them, each of us, always as an end and never as mere means. So it calls us to make serious efforts in promoting our welfare, respect our rights, and avoid harming one another. Our efforts or endeavors is to further the ends of another. O diba? Ang ganda. Ganito ka-other regarding itong Kantian ethics. So emphasis on the respect of persons or individuals, yung ikalawang strength nito. And thirdly, emphasis on fulfilling our duty. Since yung nature ng Kantian ethics is deontological, meaning it focuses highly elevated, uphold itong importance ng duty, it was highlighted that the moral act is one that is done out of duty. Again, nilabor ko na yung point na yan. And that duty is to use our rationality with respect to the moral rules that is binding in all of us. Tinuruan din tayo dito na ang isang moral act ay independent of our desires whether we wholeheartedly done it or half-heartedly, whether it produces more or less happiness to us or too many, the fact of the matter is we have a responsibility to always fulfill this duty, to not break or even bend the rules, whether for our sake or for others. O, di ba? Ito yung sinasabi kanina na yung human relation should be based on trust. Nakakatuwang isipin, ang sarap sa pakiramdam na may assurance ka na ang lahat ng tao is in line with what is rational, is in line with what is the moral law, and they are bound, they are compelled, they are expected to fulfill itong duty, to see themselves doing itong mga ipinag-uutos, itong maging responsable sa pagsunod nitong mga moral laws na ito. O, di ba? Ang sarap sa pakiramdam. May assurance tayo that all people will be moral. Talaga nga ba? Hindi, syempre tingnan natin kung ano naman yung weakness nitong Kantian ethics. So, una sa weakness nito ay its emphasis on duty disregarded the outcome of the situation. At kung ito yung kanyang strength, ito rin pala yung kanyang weakness. Nakita natin yung problem ng pag-focus ng sobra sa outcome or yung sa result or sa consequences doon sa previous episode natin, which is yung utilitarianism. Kasi nagiging justification ito para mag-commit tayo ng mga evil or immoral acts just to gain good outcome. However, if we focus too much on duty, this can also lead to some horrible outcomes as well. Balikan natin yung scenario nung lying. Okay? Yes, hindi tayo magkukumit ng lie kasi it will contradict our logic and desires to live in a world where honesty and being truthful is of highly importance. Isa yun sa nagdidictate sa atin, kaya ayaw nating i-universalized or i-normalized itong idea ng lying. So, suppose you are at work at mayroong former employee na tinanggal kahapon lang, galit na galit at gustong manakit, gustong sibatin, saksakin, gamitan ng Omnislash at Kaling Blade yung boss mo, at tinatanong ka kung nasaan ang boss mo. Anong gagawin mo? Ano ang gagawin mo? Ikaw ba ay magsisinungaling? Ikaw ba ay magsasabi ng totoo? Kung consequence lang, siguro iniisip nyo na ngayon, ano kayang consequences nung pagpili ko sa una at pagpili ko dun sa pangalawa? So sabi ng Kantian ethics, you are bound by duty not to lie. Because if you do, if you did lie, you are universalizing that action. Again, babalik tayo dun sa universalizability principle. If you committed that action, then you are also saying that it is okay for people to do it as often as they can. So the moral action in Kantian ethics in that situation is to tell the truth, even if it will lead to murder. Interesting part. Okay lang ba yun sa inyo? Okay, that is for you to reflect on. Second weakness nito ay conflict between two duties. Again, emphasizing na naman na kung ano yung strength, ano yung nature ng Kantian ethics is also its weakness. Paano naman kung mayroon kang dalawang duties at conflicting ito? Suppose ulit, you have a moral duty to keep promises and you also have a moral duty to help people who are suffering. Parehong magandang duty ito Ang sitwasyon ay, you've promised to your friend that you will take them to cinema to watch Calvinist movie, and while on your way to the cinema, there is someone on the floor that needed medical attention. Now, the question is, do you fulfill your promise of duty to take your friend to the cinema and watch Calvinist movie, leaving the person to die? Or Do you fulfill your moral duty to help the person in need and break your promise to your friend? Oh, paano na yan? Kamot ulo ata. So, yun yung second na weakness nitong Kantian ethics. Pero hindi pa din natatapos. Meron pang ikatlo. Ikatlong weakness daw nitong Kantian ethics is using duty to act in all situation is unrealistic. Ano kaya ibig sabihin nito? No two situations are exactly the same. So, in that case, no two actions can be exactly the same. Doing action X in situation A might be right, but doing action X in situation B might be wrong. So, same action, pero magkaiba na situation. Tama dun sa una. Sa situation A, tama. Then sa situation B, mali. Just because it is wrong in one situation doesn't mean it is wrong in all situations. Remember, every situation is unique, and so moral actions cannot be absolute. Wow. Ito ang principle-based ethic. Ito ang Kantian ethics. So, sana marami kayong natutunan dito. Napaka-insightful nitong episode na ito. Asahan ko yung mga questions, clarifications, insights, or violent reaction ninyo sa synchronous class natin. Again, thank you for tuning in to Lectures to My Student podcast. This is Sir Cloyd. Thank you for wanting to know more today than you did yesterday. Keep safe, everyone.